Hello, it's Romanosky from Calgary, Canada, and we are just outside the city in the Callaway Park campground, and I've brought a 2020 Winnebago Boldt BL, which you see behind me, and I'll do a walk-around video of the vehicle and describe the Winnebago's top-of-the-line Class B camper van, which this is, the Boldt. And particularly the battery system, which is unique, which is the Volta lithium-ion battery pack, which gives you about 10 times the battery capacity that you'd normally find in an RV with the normal deep cycle RV batteries. And I'll go through the advantages that this battery pack has in terms of the ability of the car to boondock or to camp without it being without electrical service, its ability to run all the power equipment in the RV, including the air conditioning, without it being plugged in, how it can keep the climate stable if you leave kids or pets inside it, and the flexibility that it offers to camp at sites that have restrictive hours for generators or disallow generators altogether. So this Volta battery pack, I think, or Volta battery system, I think you'll see in more and more RVs, just because of the very important advantages it has and the flexibility that it allows as to, you know, when and where you go and how long you can stay at different places. So I'm sitting in the rear compartment of this 2020 Winnebago Boldt, and I wanted to share with you why I think that this is, the best Class B motorhome on the market, and why this particular one is good value. Is it's a 2020, but with only 15,000 kilometers and a fresh service, and it's in as new condition. So if you're looking for a Class B, so here's the rationale that I would go through if I was trying to decide, you know, which one to buy and why I would choose the Boldt. So if you're looking for a Class B motorhome, you know, you first start with the chassis. So there's the Mercedes Sprinter chassis, which this is. There's a Dodge Ram, there's a Ford Transit, and then there might be, you know, 20 or so companies in North America that buy either the bare chassis or the basic panel van and then construct a camper van on that. There's different price points. They probably start at maybe $150,000 in Canada and go all the way up to, well, what this is $375 is the MSRP for a 2023 Boldt. Okay, so I guess the first thing you decide is what chassis you want, and the Mercedes is the only diesel. So the diesel fuel has 30% more energy than gasoline. That means you go 30% further with a tank of gas. That means you get 30% better fuel economy. So if you're on the road, your range, especially in an RV, and especially if you're going to kind of out of the way places, is, I think very significant. I mean, this vehicle on the highway, gets down to, 12, 13 liters per 100 kilometers. It's got, a range of, 600-700 kilometers. So that is class leading. You don't get that in a gas engined motorhome or camper van. The other characteristic about a diesel is, of course, that because of the high compression, you get a lot more low end torque. Okay. Now, when you have a heavy vehicle, and this is a gross vehicle weight rating of over 11,000 pounds, when you get a heavy vehicle, what you really need is low end torque off the line to accelerate to highway speeds as fast as possible. Okay, so the diesels are better at that than gas. The gas engines, you have to rev them up a lot more to get in the power band, and then when you rev the gasoline engines up, you use a lot more fuel. So a diesel, there's a reason all trucks are diesel, or all big trucks are diesel, all semi trucks are diesel, all locomotives are diesel. For industrial work or heavy pulling, a diesel is a better engine than a gas. There's no question about that. Okay, you don't see gas semi trucks. All right. So if you want a diesel camper van, Sprinter is the only one on the market. All right. It's not the only advantage of a Mercedes Sprinter van. You know, it's obviously it's Mercedes who've always been class leading in terms of their safety. And so, you know, the Boldts have the latest in the driver aids and blind spot detection and lane keep assist and brake assist. And there's a whole page of acronyms that go along with a car, that are, you know, safety systems that are built into the car. And then when different manufacturers, when they take a Sprinter van, they might not necessarily, you know, if you get a utility Sprinter van, it might not come with all that stuff. So with Winnebago, they get the top of the line Sprinter chassis with all of those driver aids, camera and parking radar, and you know, the camera that monitors the white lines on the road to see if you're deviating from the lane, you know, that lane departure warning. Blind spot assist is radar that broadcasts in the blind spot to let you know if there's somebody there, etc., etc., etc. That's the active safety bit. There's also the passive safety bit with the airbags and crumple zones and everything else that goes along with the Mercedes-Benz. Okay, so the Mercedes chassis is more expensive. I think everybody understands that, but you get something for that extra money. You're not just buying a name. You're getting the diesel engine, which is a more expensive engine to manufacture, and you're getting the, you know, this class leading safety. Okay, so if you want a Class B motorhome diesel, it's got to be a Mercedes. But even if it wasn't diesel, you'd still want the Mercedes for all the safety benefits. Okay, then okay, so there's still 10 different Class B motorhome manufacturers that use the Mercedes-Benz chassis. And then even within Winnebago or Airstream or whatever it is, there's different versions of that chassis. The Mercedes chassis comes in, you know, several weight ratings. You know, some of them have there's a 1500, 2500, 3500. This is all basically the same chassis, but the weight ratings are different, the axles are different, the wheel arrangements are different. So this is the 3500, the largest one, and it has the twin rear wheels, whereas the 1500 just has the single wheels. Okay, Mercedes or Winnebago also offers, you know, these vehicles with four-wheel drive for more, not off-roading, but to go to more remote places, and they offer ones which are, you know, more for the highway. This would be one that's more for the highway. It's rear-wheel drive. If it's rear-wheel drive, you get a little bit of a higher weight rating or payload capacity than the four-wheel drive. The four-wheel drive takes away some of that payload. And also with the all-wheel drive versions, it raises the vehicle up another couple of inches, and so that could be good if you're going on logging roads. But if you're trying to park it in a garage, you probably don't need it to be, you know, any higher. Okay. The main, the Class B motorhomes differ with, fit and finish and the types of componentry and, how fancy they are inside. And there's a number of them that are pretty fancy and they have a high price. And, the Boldt is one of them. But what makes the Boldt different, significantly different, importantly different, is the battery system in it. Okay, and so it offers some really key advantages, in my opinion, to RV camping and RV travel. So this is the Volta system, and what it is a really large lithium-ion battery pack that would be very, very similar to something that comes from a PHEV plug-in hybrid car. And in fact, the company Volta started out, the people behind that started out making advanced battery packs for plug-in hybrid cars, and then they spun off a business unit to adapt that technology to the RV. And the Boldt in 2020, I think, was only one of two motorhomes or camper vans to get the Volta system, and the other one was like a super expensive coach that was like, I forget the name of it, $2 million coach or something that had the same thing. Okay, so you get this 11 kilowatt hour battery pack and the associated parts that go with it, and that is very significantly different from the electrical system that you get in an ordinary Class B motorhome that doesn't have the Volta system. There's a couple manufacturers of these lithium-ion battery packs out there. Volta is one of them, but there aren't very many. And in 2020, I think the Boldt is the only Class B motorhome that had this system. I think now Airstream has it as well in their newest RVs. Okay. Now, the advantages of it are really quite profound in terms of the electrical storage. The total storage is one thing, but also the way the voltage stays constant throughout the whole state of charge of the battery. So I can kind of explain that. What's normal now is to have two deep cycle RV batteries. These are nickel metal hydride batteries, and the two of them together, the biggest batteries you can get, add up to about 1 kilowatt hour. Okay, so if you have a 100-watt light bulb, that's 100 watts. If you had 10 of those, that's 1,000 watts or a kilowatt. If you had 10 100-watt light bulbs for 1 hour, that's 1 kilowatt hour. So that's about the energy total in the normal deep cycle RV batteries. But the issue with that is that the voltage that the nickel metal hydride batteries have doesn't remain constant. And they'll start out at 13 volts, and they'll give you 13 volts for only maybe half of the battery charge, and then it'll slowly drop off. That's why if you have like a normal flashlight with normal batteries, it just gets dimmer and dimmer and dimmer and dimmer. Okay, now that might be okay for a flashlight, but the RV systems, in particular the heating systems, require the full 13 volts to operate, and if you don't get 13 volts, you don't get any heat. And the reason for that is that because you're dealing with gas and you're dealing with propane, the first thing the blower motor has to do is make sure it evacuates any propane gases that might be in the system. And so it spins up the blower motor, and there's a little device in the blower motor that indicates that the blower motor is up to the a set RPM, which is determined to be the minimum to evacuate all of these gases. And only if the blower motor gets to that RPM will it then turn on the gas. Okay, so if you have your RV battery and it was giving 13 volts, and now it's the state of charge is at 50% or less, well, now you're only getting 12 volts. Well, this little switch in your heater is very sensitive. If you get 12 volts, it won't spin the blower motor fast enough, and you won't turn on the gas, and you won't have any heat. You could have full propane tanks, but if your battery's half, you don't have any heat. Okay, and this has happened to me. We took our 6-month-old baby on a camping trip, and it was colder than we expected. I think it was like only 2 or 3 degrees Celsius, and we've got a baby, and I turn on the heat, and the blower motor spins the blower for a while, but the gas doesn't turn on, and we're cold, and we have a baby, and my wife tells me she's never camping anymore. Okay, so but that's what can happen. And so you need electrical power at a certain voltage to power your heater and your hot water heater and your fridge and everything else in your RV. Even if they're propane powered, you still need the electrical power. You still need the voltage to be able to operate them. So your 1 kilowatt hour of storage really is kind of half a kilowatt hour of storage, and that's not much. You might get 2 days, maybe 3 days if you really conserve, with enough electrical power to run your heater in your RV. Okay, and that's not for long, because if you're running the blower motor, you're depleting the battery. So that means that without an external generator, you're to boondock, as they say, which is to park without electrical service, you're not going to last very long at all. Now, you can overcome that by getting a generator. Okay, but then you've got, a diesel motorhome, and you have to fill it with diesel, and you've got a propane heater, and you've got to fill your propane tanks, and then you've got a gasoline generator, so now you have to bring a can of gasoline as well. So you have like 3 different things that you're filling up, and then you got to operate the generator. But with the generator, a lot of places that you might want to go don't allow generators. And if they do allow generators, they mainly give you certain hours. maybe, from 9 to 11 and 5 to 6 or something, when everybody's getting up for breakfast or when everybody's having dinner. But you can't do it in the middle of the night, or you can't do it in the middle of the afternoon to keep the campsites quiet. And also now there's obvious huge fire risks as well. So, operating your generator can be problematic. You can use solar cells, but solar cells really don't produce that much, and the Boldt has solar panels as well, but you won't get enough power from your solar cells, your solar panels, to run an AC system or anything. You're only getting a few hundred watts, at one time. Okay, so the generator and the associated equipment you need to do it, and the jerry can or whatever are used to carrying the gas, is an extra hassle when you're camping, and then you might not even be able to use it. I was at a festival in the summer with my trailer, and I did bring the generator, and then I found out that they're not allowed, and if anybody saw me using it, they'd confiscate it and so on. So that left me stuck with no power and a fridge full of food. And I didn't have the power to keep the fridge on, and then the fridge had low voltage and it shut off in the middle of the festival because I couldn't use my generator. Okay, and like I said, if I had the normal batteries, I'm only good for a couple of days. Okay, you can park it at serviced RV sites and plug it in. Okay, so then you have shore power and you don't have anything to worry about. But now you're limited to where you're going. And if you're out there camping, the reservations are hard to get. The electrified campgrounds, spots fill up first. Often the nicer campgrounds are the ones that aren't electrified, because normally the campgrounds, if they have both, will have kind of like a parking lot, and then they'll put in all the big RVs, and those will be electrified. But if you want a nice campsite with some privacy that's got some trees surrounded it, well, those aren't electrified. So if you and those are the sites also that you can't use the generator. So you really just can't use the nicer sites, and you can't have the flexibility if you're reliant on these two kind of old school batteries that normally you have. Now, there are 12-volt lithium-ion batteries that are the same size as the normal deep cycle RV batteries, and you can buy those for $1,000 or something like that. But that isn't the same thing as a high voltage battery pack that's 10 kilowatt hours. Okay, those are still only 1 or 2 kilowatt hours. They do have the advantage of keeping the voltage constant, so they are better. You get twice as much effective use out of them. But we're still only talking 1 or 2 kilowatt hours, not 11 like you get with the Boldt and the Volta system. Okay, so that is a big upgrade. These battery systems are expensive. It's like a $25,000-$30,000 upgrade, but it allows you so much more flexibility. You can go off the grid. You can go up to a week. You can have enough battery power to use the AC. Like if you can't sleep and it's too hot, and you're in a campground and they don't allow your generator, well, even if you have fresh RV batteries, it's not enough power for the generator either. Okay, so the generator needs a lot more. So you have the flexibility of climate control and of camping without electrical service. Okay, and the other thing is that let's say you just wanted to keep the inside of the RV cool while you went shopping, or maybe you had your kids were playing inside it, or maybe you had pets or something like that. Well, with a big battery pack like that, you can set the climate control, and you can keep the vehicle cool or hot or whatever temperature you want while you're doing something else for an extended period of time. Okay, so if you're camping with your dog or whatever, and you needed to leave your dog inside, you could do that, and then set the and then set the temperature. So that system just allows so much more flexibility. It's just better. You don't have to carry a generator around. You don't have to worry about if the campsite allows generators or it doesn't, you don't have to worry about extra fuel. You don't, you know, you can, you know, have the freedom to run, you know, all the power stuff you need at the same time without worrying about it. And you can go off the grid for an extended period of time. It's a tremendous advantage in an RV. And as somebody who camps with a, you know, an old school trailer, I can't tell you the number of times that I wish I had more power. So that really is the limiting factor as to where you can go and how long you can stay and so on. So that's what the Volta system does. Now, it's not just a bunch of batteries, it's a battery pack, and it's climate controlled and heated and coolant, and there's, you know, obviously coolant circuits that go through and manage the temperature of this and power electronics and so on. And then it's got the correct capacity inverters and other power electronics. It includes an extra generator on the engine. So when you're running a car, it'll give the battery pack 3.5 kilowatts. You have an 11 kilowatt hour battery pack and you can charge it at 3.5 kilowatts. It's about 3 hours of driving to go from 0 to 100%. Also, you can plug it in to shore, and it'll take 3.5 kilowatts that way as well. So you can plug it in for 2 or 3 hours and also get 100%. Okay. There's 2 solar panels. The solar panels, I think, are about 115 watts each, so, you know, 200 watts on a summer day. So if that is in the sun for 5 hours, you get 1 kilowatt hour. So you can probably, if you're light on your electrical usage, you know, that 1 kilowatt hour might replace the day's electricity if you're not using the AC. Okay, so that allows you to extend your stay, you know, even further. I mean, you could go for weeks on this, you know, maybe drive the car once a week or something and get it to 100, use the solar cells, and you know, you could have a really extended stay, you know, with this vehicle. You can also attach auxiliary solar cells, which will charge the battery, and there's a plug-in on the exterior of the vehicle to do that as well. Okay, so I think pretty soon, you know, most RVs or high-end RVs will all have these systems, but the Winnebago Boldt was a pioneer, and in 2020 it was the only Class B motorhome that had this system, okay, to my knowledge anyway. Now looking at these vehicles used, well, new ones are over 300,000 Canadian. The MSRP on this is 375,000 Canadian. Well, this one, you know, we have for just a bit more than half of that, okay, and it only has 15,000 kilometers on it. So this would be the opportunity to get into a diesel Mercedes Class B motorhome with the advanced battery pack for not much more than 50 cents on the dollar based on the current MSRPs of these vehicles. So that. Okay, and then about this particular Boldt, I mean, if you're shopping for a Boldt, there's not very many choices. I think at the moment this is one of a couple that are on the market. Well, this one, you know, had a pretty charmed life. It was just bought by a woman who wanted to travel with her dog and wanted to make sure that her dog was comfortable. And when I say that, I'm heavily allergic to dogs, and you know, there's no smell or dog hair in this vehicle. I would be asthmatic and going to the hospital if there was the residue of a dog here. So it's perfectly clean. There's no evidence that there was ever a dog in here. But that's all it did. It only has 15,000 kilometers on it. The woman who owns it, they built her and her husband built a garage for it, so it's always been inside. So you don't get the you know, the oxidation of the paint and the drying out of the rubber and so forth. It's been serviced at Mercedes. It had an annual service in 2022 at I think 11,000 kilometers, and it just went in for a service for an oil change in 2023. Just got it out with, you know, 15,000 kilometers and change. Externally, you know, a few little odd stone chips, minor stone pits here and there. No other real indication of wear or damage or anything else. So it's basically an as new as new Winnebago Boldt, with only the very slightest indication that it's ever been used. You know, the stove and the fridge and the bathroom, they don't look like they've ever been used. They may have, but it doesn't look like they've ever been used at all. So the vehicle basically shows and feels as like a brand new vehicle, freshly serviced, and you know, a very substantial discount from the $375,000 MSRP that the 23s are. Okay. So for the driver and cab conveniences, you have the Mercedes MBUX touchscreen multimedia, navigation, Wi-Fi hotspot, voice control, and rear camera, dual airbags, power adjustable heated swivel side and recline cab seats, Distronic, which is the adaptive cruise control, power door locks, power windows, sun visors, of course. We have folding privacy screens for the cab door windows. We have keyless entry with a remote, rain sensor wipers. For the driver aids, we have the collision avoidance system, blind spot assist, active lane keeping assist, active brake assist, traffic sign assist, crosswind assist. It's fully carpeted, power defrosted mirrors, power steering with tilt and telescoping wheel, 3-point seat belts, and the ultra leather covering, which looks a lot like leather for the seats. So looking at the layout of this Winnebago Boldt, it is the 70BL version, and Winnebago makes two floor pans, the other one being the KL. The BL has the rear-mounted bedroom and centrally located bath, whereas the KL has the bathroom in the rear and a central flex bed system in the middle. The advantage of the BL is that it gives you a more or less king-size bed shape in the rear, and the central flex bed system in the KL is a little bit more awkward and disjointed. The BL has the two front-mounted captain's chairs and a single seat that sits beside them. It has a table which can be removed. There's a seat belt there, and there are three more belted positions in the rear for a total of six persons. This single rear seat then folds out into a smaller bed. I mean, certainly good for a child. And that is in addition to the larger sleeping quarters in the rear, where the platform slides out into the middle and the backrests then form the middle, giving you more or less a king-size space for the bedroom. In the kitchen area, you've got the single burner infrared electrically powered stovetop cooker. Beneath that is a microwave, and to the side is a fridge of about, I think it's about 4.5 cubic feet of capacity. The bathroom and shower enclosure is located across from the kitchen and features a toilet, bamboo floor, and the shower from above. I'm not sure in this vehicle, I mean, if it's ever been used. It certainly doesn't, there's certainly no evidence of that. And there is a rooftop fan and an opening side window. Controls for the Boldt's climate control system and water tanks live beside the washroom. And the Boldt has a sophisticated heating system which uses both a 16-gallon propane tank and the electrical power provided by the high voltage Volta system. To make the Boldt four-season capable, the entire water system is insulated and heated. The water lines run inside the coach, and each of the tanks for fresh gray and black water have heating elements powered by the Volta system. The control panel for the Volta electrical system, as well as switches for the power retractable awning and interior lights, can be found right above the kitchen as you walk through the power sliding rear door. The 13.5 kilowatt hour lithium ion battery pack is also climate controlled and lives within the walls, the insulated walls of the coach. 13.5 kilowatt hours of electrical power is more than 10 times what you would get from twin deep cycle RV battery. This is enough power to power all of the Boldt's electrical accessories and appliances, including the air conditioner, which is something that deep cycle RV batteries do not produce enough power to do. The Boldt is one of the very few RVs that can run an air conditioning system while not being plugged into shore service. Walking around the interior, we see the roof-mounted AC system. And again, with the Volta lithium-ion battery pack, you could run this at more or less full blast all day and not deplete the battery. No other RV can do that. We also have the usual smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors. Above all the windows and in the rear, there's tracks for an adjustable racking system, and the storage, the overhead storage in the Boldt is considerable in the front and rear compartments. Going to the exterior, we see the generous awning. It's power operated and lit. And there is also a function that if it gets too windy and risks damage, that it automatically retracts. The sliding door is power operated, both from the inside and from the key fob. There are running boards on both driver and passenger side that are also eliminated. Around the rear of the Boldt, we see the detachable ladder, which gets you onto the rooftop where you can see the twin 115-volt solar cells, the AC unit, and there is a Wi-Fi amplifier at the front of the vehicle. The Boldt features configurable bug and privacy screens for the rear area and the side door. Walking around the perimeter of the Boldt, we can see access to the mechanical systems. We have the 120-volt electrical outlets, as well as the plug-in that will accept up to 30 amps, so about 3.5 kilowatts of power from shore. And on the lower part of the bodywork, we'll also find the intake for fresh water and the pressurized city water system, the dump valves for the black and gray water tanks, as well as the fill for the propane system. In terms of capacity, there is a 21-gallon tank for fresh water, 2.6 gallons for the water heater. The black water tank is 24 gallons. The gray water tank is 26 gallons. And there is 16 gallons of propane that can be stored with the vehicle.